Okay. Well, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday. I hope that the cooler weather is soothing you like it has soothed me. I am not a summer weather person, so I'm just going to make sure everyone's muted here. Okay. Yeah, if you haven't yet, maybe mute your, there we go. Perfect. Yeah, hope the weather is treating you all well. Just some quick announcements, reminders for those of you in our network. So we only have a few virtual, I'm letting people in while I'm talking. So sorry, guys, I'm a one-man show today. So I'm kind of, there we go. So we only have a few virtual education opportunities left for this year, which is crazy to think about, but we have one in October about forming strong committees, and that's with Amanda Elliott from Main Street America. We're also doing a grant writing one with Indiana Humanities in November, and then closing it out with Tasha from Main Street America, and they're going to be talking about entrepreneurial ecosystems, kind of building off of a webinar that they did earlier in the year for those of you who attended that. So make sure you register for that or send it to your board members. Those will be some really good ones. We also have one community exchange left. It's going to be in Kendallville on December 13th. We have not sent out registration for that yet, so don't worry, you didn't miss it. You'll probably see it sometime mid to end of September. I'll get it out to you guys, but in case you don't have that on your calendar, we would love to see you there. It'll be really fun to be in Kendallville, close to Christmas time, and be all together to kind of wrap up the year. Also, if you didn't see on Facebook or on the Main Street Monday, Main Street America put out a bunch of small business courses. And those would be great for either you to watch and kind of almost like train the trainer for you to bring back to your businesses, or just have them watch directly. So just something that might be helpful to you or your economic vitality committee. So if you don't see it on the Facebook or on Main Street Monday, email me and I'll send you the links to those. And then lastly, tomorrow is our Crown Hill downtown streetscape landscaping workshop. We're really excited about it. We still have plenty of spots left. So if anyone last minute decides they want to come, just email me and I'll send you all the information. It's free. We'll have lunch, breakfast provided, all of that. We'd love to have you there. So that's my housekeeping announcements. And so just wanting to quickly kind of introduce our speaker today. Hannah Davis is the development manager for the city of Florence. She's responsible for downtown economic development projects, grant program management, BR&E, marketing, and program development. She's also responsible for managing the Downtown Florence Main Street program, which if you didn't know, they were a GAMSA winner in 2023. So really amazing organization. She's passionate about community development, small business, event coordination, and public service. Hannah came to the city of Florence after spending 4 years in Lake City, South Carolina, where she managed the Jones Carter Gallery and was the director of art fields for their 2016 event. She holds a BA in Historic Preservation and Community Planning from the College of Charleston, the Historic Real Estate Development Finance Professional Certification from NDC, and is a certified tourism marketing professional through the Southeast Tourism Society. She is also a graduate of the Jekyll Island Management Institute and the Francis Marion University Nonprofit Leadership Institute, Leadership Florence, and the SC Economic Development Institute. In her spare time, Hannah can be found volunteering with and training her human remains detection dogs for law enforcement agencies across the state, working on graphic design projects, or whipping up exciting things in the kitchen. So if that doesn't tell you, Hannah is a wealth of knowledge. I got to hear her speak on a Maestro town hall last year and was so impressed by just the way she led her organization and also the way that they kind of organize the work that they do. And so we really wanted to bring her in to talk to you all, not only about kind of their journey to get to their GAMSA award, but also just how they kind of, again, organize the work they do. She'll talk a little bit about Maestro for our IMs and NOMs who use the Maestro system. Some of that might be helpful to you, but either way, kind of just thinking about work planning and all of that, Hannah's got some really great tips and tricks kind of for success. So with that, I will stop talking and pass it over to Hannah.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me.
Yep, we can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. I think it's going to try and do some silly things to come on the phone too. All right.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. But...
Yeah, I'm not really sure why. Let's see if I can fix that. Is that better?
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah. Our computer system's weird here. Okay, so thank you so much for the introduction. That was a lot of reading and talking about me. I'm not good at talking about myself, but appreciate you sharing all that. So I'm here just to talk about how we have maximized the Main Street approach and what we tell all of our folks in our statewide program. South Carolina is kind of unique in that the South Carolina coordinating program is the only coordinating program that it's housed in the municipal league, so it's run a little bit differently. We have essentially 4 levels of participation at the state level with South Carolina. There are the people who are just getting their feet wet with Main Street. Those are called the Friends. We've got people who are doing, 3-year intensives that are taking a major step with their communities to really deep dive into getting Main Street programs started. And those are called our aspiring level. The people that are our affiliate level folks are called Classic Main Streets in South Carolina, and then we have the accredited, and then the GAMSA folks like us. And we're actually the first accredited Main Street program to win a GAMSA in South Carolina. Greenville, South Carolina won the first GAMSA, but that was before you had to be an accredited Main Street. So hopefully this is going to work, and we can get all of this stuff going here. So I always like to start off our presentations with some objectives so you guys can kind of know where we're going. So today we're going to talk a little bit about work planning and how we plan work in Florence, South Carolina, and hopefully you can glean some good ideas and information from that. We're going to talk about finding your why. Why do we do this work? Why do we put ourselves through this? What is the reason behind what we're doing? Cultivating your tribe, which is really all about positioning your Main Street program in a place of experience, knowledge, and of subject matter experts for your community, because we really all do have to be jacks of all trades with our Main Street programs. We're going to talk a little bit about our GAMSA journey and then end with some top 10 tips for Main Street success. I told Abby, Maestro actually did a case study on Downtown Florence back in 2023 that we'll email out to you after this event, so you can kind of see how we leveraged Maestro during our GAMSA journey and what we were able to do and what we've been able to do since then with that software. So work planning, and this is a lot, so this is definitely coming to you via email afterwards, but biggest thing with work planning, and I know this is true of your communities as well, it's not just an annual requirement, but these are living, breathing roadmaps of the work that we plan to accomplish throughout the year. We actually design our work plans around the format that Georgia Main Street uses, and we found that it really is one of the best ways to visually organize your work. So you'll see that up here on the right-hand side of the screen. This is what our transformation strategy work plan looks like. Each section has a transformation strategy. We have goals within that strategy, and then we have tasks within each one of those goals. Annual events and festivals are not part of your work plan goals. Those are annual responsibilities unless this is something that is critical to the success of your program. So if you're doing it annually and it's a routine, should not be part of that work plan. You're not expected to be a subject matter expert on work planning. You have peers in your network who can help you. You lean on people who you know in your state are doing really great things with their work plans, and talk to them, bring them in, have them network with you on how to get those things done in their Main Streets, since you guys all have sort of unique challenges and opportunities that exist in your own spaces. Work planning goals need to be SMART. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then work plans are not rigid. Sometimes we make a lot of really good plans and then a roadblock pops up and we have to table or delay something. There might be a government issue that prevents us from getting something done. There might be government changes and priority shifts. There might be turnover within your board or staff that prevent you from being able to get something done that's on your list. And also, you may have something that pops up, and we'll talk about this when we talk about Florence's GAMSA journey. We call them targets of opportunity. These are things that align with our transformation strategies that we hadn't even thought of during that work planning process, but make a lot of sense for us to jump into. Work planning components. your transformation strategies, and hopefully your programs all have at least one of those, but please don't try and accomplish more than 3 at a time. Transformation strategies are adopted generally for 3 to 5 years. We include the why. So this is something for our board and for our staff. Why are we doing this? What does it make sense? How does it help us accomplish our goals? We don't assign more than 4 goals for each transformation strategy per year. Some of our transformation strategies, we have 3 in Florence. We have only 1 or 2 goals for those. Make sure you're identifying partners. Make sure you have steps outlined to achieve each one of those goals. Have an estimated completion date for those within that calendar year or fiscal year. Have your budget. Have the responsible party. This is a really, really big piece. Make sure you know who is responsible for delivering this task. And then we have a status. So once a month, we go through and update the progress on this, and then we send it out to our board members so they know where we are on all these different projects. So how do you get started? If you're a brand new program, if you're a seasoned program, maybe looking on if you're a new director, how do you get started doing this type of work? This transformation strategy process is how we got things done in Florence, South Carolina. And we had this mindset before National even did their Main Street refresh back in 2017. We started doing this in 2010. At the time, we called those progress markers or benchmarks in our master planning efforts. And that really is what became our transformation strategies moving forward once we had a name for what these were called. So work plans, they begin with identifying your transformation strategy with your board and your community. So you'll see that as the 2 inputs going up into the cloud there, the community vision and the local market understanding. Then you're coming down into the vision for your program, and then those transformation strategies come out of that. And that has to be specific to your community. Main Street America does have some canned ones pre-made for those who are trying just to get started with doing this process. But really, you want something that's market-driven and has good community buy-in in your Main Street, so that you can get this work done faster without a whole lot of rigmarole there. We get started by breaking down complex SMART goals into manageable tasks so that you feel like you're accomplishing something and it's digestible. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. So that's what we've kind of always done with our mindset. And remember that your work plans need buy-in. We have a downtown master plan. That's one of the best things that I can tell you that we did ever that helped us get started. Our program started in 2002. We have always been a hybrid model, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But we didn't get really rolling until 2009-10 when we adopted this new downtown master plan. And that helped us lay out what our annual plan of work would be. And we really were able to start checking things off and working that plan. Worst thing you can do is put your downtown master plan, if you have one, on the shelf. If you have had master planning work done in the past, but it's not up to date and relevant, pull all that off and have a board work session and sit down and say, okay, we paid a lot of money for this plan. What didn't happen and why? What did happen and why? And start working through that so you can build. You'll see a timeline that we've built later on, kind of showing your transformation over, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Our work plans are due annually in January, but I'm not sure when Indiana's are due, but you need to workshop those with your board 3 to 4 months before they're due to your state. What are SMART goals? These are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. This is something that is in a lot of different fields of work, so we're not going to spend too much time on it, but every single one of your goals on Main Street should follow this specific framework so that you have that accountability baked in. You have time accountability, you have people accountability, you have things that aren't pie in the sky dreams that you can't accomplish in 1 year. And one thing that I always tell people is if it's a multi-year project, indicate that in your work plan and show this is what's happening year 1, this is what's going to happen year 2, this is what's going to happen year 3. So things like major construction projects, we've got those. We call what we do focused R&D or a roadmap. everybody in the state, in the country who has a Main Street program has unique assets in their downtown, but we're all fundamentally doing the same work in our communities. So take advantage of field trips, take advantage of that peer-to-peer mentoring that can help you and your Main Street program identify goals and how other people accomplish those goals if they're similar to yours. Main Street America and statewide coordinating programs offer tons of publications and workshops. Don't stay insular to your state, but rely on the entire network, and you will go very, very far, because so many of these state programs have wonderful, wonderful resources that can help any Main Street program across any level that they're working in, and can really transform the way that you work. So be open-minded and seek out those opportunities. The Main Street Network does offer that unique roadmap, and we call that rip off and duplicate opportunities, but make sure you give credit where credit is due. That's a big one. One that I can recall that I've seen kind of proliferate throughout the network is Macon, Georgia's hype teams. Wonderful idea, really great. If you have a hype team and it started because you heard about it from Macon, always give Macon credit for that, because all you're doing is helping build that relationship and network. Just because it worked in one community doesn't mean it's going to work in yours. Your R&D should be focused, scaled appropriately to your community size and needs, and adapted to your community's market. And I always tell people, avoid throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, because that's not how we do smart planning. It's great to say, well, we should have a dog parade and a farmer's market, and we need to have a facade grant program. But if you already have all of those things in place in different ways and they don't meet your transformation strategies, we don't need to do those programs. Hyper-focused work is the way to get things done quickly and effectively and sustainably on Main Street. And this has been shared probably too many times, but we all have our plans, and then we all have reality. So when you're doing your work planning, change your tactics, not your vision. We all have the same goal at the end of the line. We want a Main Street that is vibrant, diverse, inclusive, and a great place to be, that is self-sufficient and sustainable and filled with businesses. We all want those things, but how we get there looks different with every single community, with every single leadership change, with every single board member change. So you've got to be flexible to change your tactics on how you get to your goals. And I always tell people that getting started is the hardest. So if we know where we need to be, let's work backwards from there and see what that first step might be, and kind of go from there. This next section is about finding your why. Why in the world have you taken on this role? What inspires you to do this work? We as Main Street directors have really, really hard jobs, and we've got to constantly remind ourselves what we're doing, why we're doing it, and keep that vision and passion alive for this work that we do. Because if this is just a job or a means to an end, this is not maybe the right place. You don't have the right seat on the bus there. Main Street programs are only as good as their current leadership, but there is no one-size-fits-all leader in Main Street, and your Main Street program's revitalization starts with you, the executive director, and the vision that comes from that. There's a lot of turnover in Main Street right now. We've pitched some sessions for this year's conference coming up in Philadelphia that kind of talk about this and how to combat this and how to build this into our programs. The average working span of a Main Street director right now, I think nationwide, is about 3 years. So the turnover rate is really high. And finding your why is part of that sustainability journey and keeping you on Main Street doing this really important work. So Main Street is a place for doers and action. Effective Main Street leaders have a few key qualities. It's people who value other people, authentic, people-centered, with, not for mindset. Effective Main Street leaders are going to be those folks who can build capacity, who can lead through strategy, who stand on solid ground, and those who never stop learning. Just your presence in this space, taking your lunch or taking your early morning break, is part of that never stop learning piece of it. Always encourage people to pursue their Main Street America Revitalization Professional Credential. I went through that program and completed it this past spring, and it really will help you get where you need to go and be able to lead the types of programs that are really outstanding. So doers and action is what we should be doing on Main Street. This is a slide called Getting Shit On. And this is something that we stole from our local museum director, because we were fussing about something that board member had a wild hair to do that was not even close to what we should be doing on our program. And he said, "Oh, you're getting shit on." And this is how, we have avoided that with our strategic planning. And so we took our local museum director, we told him we were going to take this and start sharing it with others because we thought it was really great. Having a vision, strategy, and plan can help you avoid getting shit on. And what you have to avoid it is active communication, coordination, collaboration, and evaluation, consistently through the board. Do not add activities if they don't fit your program's vision. I need to underline that for folks. Bad reasons to start new projects and programs are finding a random grant, because that's not a great reason to do something in your main street. The activity might add somebody to the payroll. That's great if you have enough for them to do consistently. We've done everything in our office with a staff of 2 and a board of 11. So we don't have a ton of people working on all of these things, but everybody has a role to play. We don't do things for publicity or for the wow factor or for the silver bullet effect. There's lots of bright and shiny distracting objects in Main Street work, and there's a lot of people selling a lot of things that might not be the best for your program or your district. So just make sure that what you're doing stays true to your program's vision and the work planning that you have undertaken. It's okay to say no and not right now if a project doesn't fit your vision and strategy. We did a session on this back in the national conference in Birmingham for event evaluation and planning. If you were there for that, embrace the parking lot. It's okay to tell somebody this is a really wonderful idea, but not right now, and we can maybe work this in with the next vision session, strategy session, and really test the market and see if it will fit with what we're trying to do. And then we always say be mindful for targets of opportunity, but be wary of dragons. And that is something that we have really done well in Florence, is keeping in mind that there are targets of opportunity that might align with your transformation strategies and being flexible enough with your program to work those in without derailing other projects. And but you do have to be mindful that sometimes those targets of opportunity have hidden things as part of them. So be careful when you're taking advantage of those, is kind of our advice with that. Next up, finding your tribe. Oops, apparently that wants to jump ahead. Finding your tribe, this approach is most effective in places where community residents have strong connections to their Main Street district. So we approach this through mapping, engaging, celebrating, and evaluating. Again, evaluation is part of everything that we have done in our program, and I think that's why we've been successful in part. Know your demographics for your community. Know who should be sitting at the table. Try to understand why those people are not at the table if they're not, and help find places for them. Identify community networks. Find those network connectors, those people in your community who can connect you to the people that you need to be in the room with. Identify communication and engagement opportunities with all of your demographics that your program is trying to connect with. Engagement, you want to meet people where they are, go to them. You want to generate ideas with the community and break down barriers that might inhibit their ability to participate or their desire to participate. Celebrating, collect and share the stories in your community. I cannot speak highly enough about storytelling. We implemented Phil Ike's storytelling framework in our community. I think we were the first Main Street community that they worked with on a one-to-one, and we have seen that just be transformative, just telling the stories of our business owners and community characters and helping people understand the journeys that folks have been through. Thank your partners and volunteers often, and evaluate everything that you're doing in your program. What was successful, what wasn't successful, what could be changed for the better. That will help you with that mindset of SMART goals and working incrementally. Main Street is economic development. Do not forget that. We are not party planners, we are not festival directors, and we're not the events people. We have those things as part of our program, but those are not our primary goals or focus. This is my biggest pet peeve. Main Street isn't a thing. So, you sometimes will hear, oh, we did the Main Street thing. No, you didn't because you still think that it's a thing. Main Street is a cyclical process that does not go away. It is always going to be active in your community if you are working it correctly. We are small business champions. Our role is to be resource connectors and gap fillers, and the quality of our community is what's going to attract people, investments, and create and retain jobs, and that goes back to economic development. Main Street, as y'all all know, exists at that intersection of historic preservation and community economic development. And fundamentally, we are the quality of life people. That's why we exist. We have to create wonderful qualities of life for our residents and for our business owners and make it attractive to be in our downtown so that they can be thriving and sustainable. Authentic places, this is something that's a big passion point for mine. The IDA, which is the International Downtown Association, they have a 10-point authenticity checklist that I'm not going to read out to you, but placemaking and authenticity are two very different things. Placemaking is about creating an environment for people to gather and feel included, so that's something that is made. And authenticity is about preserving the historical integrity and uniqueness of our places. So that is something that exists already. And authenticity has to be supported, protected, and advocated for. So think about your Main Street districts, what makes them unique and different, and how do you preserve that? Is it a physical preservation or is it a cultural preservation? What are those things that we need to make sure that we are keeping so that they feel like they are one-of-a-kind, memorable places? Because at the center of everything we do is place. And places evolve over time. So just quickly kind of running through how Downtown Florence got its GAMSA and what that looks like for us and where we're going from here. Our population is about, this is a little older slide, but we're about 42,000 as of today. Our program was established in 2002. We are a hybrid program, so we are quasi-public. We're a municipality arm and a 501c3 nonprofit. My office is employed by the city of Florence, but we manage all the aspects of the 501c3 nonprofit with a board of 11. So we're kind of both. We have a budget of around $831,000. That budget has been in place now with the same budget probably for at least the last 10 years. And we budget $240,000 annually for incentive programs. And we're going to talk a little bit about those because those are part of our key to success. Since 2010, we've seen about $3.5 million in redevelopment, and we have a 7-to-1 public to private reinvestment ratio. We've rehabbed 79 buildings. We've had 7 tax credit projects and 1 low-income housing tax credit project to address affordable housing concerns in our district, and we're kind of continuing going down that road. As of today, over the next 5 years, we're tracking around $180 million of additional investment in the downtown area, and we're expanding the program boundaries and what that looks like over time. So this was Downtown Florence circa 2011, and we were described as, in 1985, as a drunk too far gone to be saved. And that really was not the wake-up call, actually. So the wake-up call for revitalizing our community happened in 2002 when our program was formed, because we lost a potential major employment manufacturing. It was a K-Cup manufacturer. We lost that opportunity to another community of our size because of the quality of our downtown and the shape that our downtown was in. Our downtown had a decline that started, not unlike a lot of places in the United States, around the 1960s when malls became a thing, and we still have a hospital system that bought up an entire block of buildings and tore them all down, and so that was pretty bad. But we were able to maintain about 8 blocks of historic commercial architecture, and that has been protected since 2008 in the National Register District. Our journey on the private development side started with this building. Prior to this, we had several institutional level developments sort of on what we call the Arts and Culture District, which is a fringe area leading into our downtown. It's not actually part of our downtown, but there was a public library that was built in part by the county government and in part by a local community foundation that works on public projects. We had a little theater that got a really incredible upgrade, again, through that same mechanism of funding, public-private partnership. And then we had a university performing arts center that were all constructed from 2006 to 2011 that really, we called them our string of pearls. That was really kind of what led into the downtown to spark some of this private investment. And the private investment started with this building. This was the former Cosmos building, and I'm sure folks have seen these slipcovers in their downtowns. But behind it was something really special, and this was our first ever tax credit project in our downtown, which eventually became Hotel Florence, which is a wonderful boutique hotel that has, I think, 63 rooms currently, and it was a state and federal historic tax credit project, and we also have the abandoned building tax credit in South Carolina, so they were able to stack that as well. Inside of it, it has the hotel and a restaurant, and now it has a second restaurant and a spa associated with it as well. So this was really our first major foray of private redevelopment, and the project was about, at the time, I think it was like $11 million for this development, and it really sparked. It was done by locals. It really sparked the movement and demonstrating that this was possible on our main street. And this individual and his partners who developed this particular property really understood the value and the need for downtown to come alive again, and they helped push that public community narrative that the program just wasn't quite ready for yet. So that started in 2011. This project opened in 2013. And so how did we do it, and why was this effort different than the previous one? And, you know, we say that the secret sauce is really about the Main Street approach. We've been involved with Main Street since 2002, and we really started getting our legs under us in 2008 when we got our first national accreditation. We had local investors, people who put their money where their heart is and said, you know, no matter how small, we're going to work on this together and really make things happen. We had really visionary leadership at the city level and at the nonprofit and private level. We had local government intervention with our Main Street office. Our office was organized from the get-go as a hybrid partnership entity. We have a dedicated team of two. Our office has always had 2 employees, and I think that's really beneficial if you can afford to do that, to have a good soundboard. If not, then have a great executive team behind you on your board. And then most importantly, we had a master plan adoption, and we used that master plan. And I always tell people that small places are built in, great places are built in small increments. And this is a quote from Robert Studeville from the Center of New Urbanism. If you don't follow that, you should. It's a great resource for Main Street communities. But this is what our incremental achievement really looks like. I call 2002, 2008 our foundational years. That was when SEDC was formed. We did all the legwork to get our historic district designated. We started working on small design enhancements. We started doing a lot of public input. We developed our inventories during that time, our building and our business inventories. We did a lot of strategic planning. We hired those dedicated staff members. We started working, learning the Main Street approach, and we achieved that first accreditation in 2008. 2009 to 2015 was our capacity building. So we adopted that new master plan. We worked with the municipal government to adopt key policies and ordinances to protect and enhance downtown. We started maintenance and appearance codes during that time, which go beyond property maintenance codes that are traditionally adopted. And depending on the state that you're in, property rights might interfere with that. South Carolina has some of the strongest property rights in the country, and so for us to be able to adopt that was a pretty big feat. We did a lot of catalyst projects, small, low cost improvements that made big visual impacts. Public-private partnerships have been and continue to be very important to our program. We developed incentive programs during that time. Our first incentive program was a facade grant program that started in 2013. We still have that program. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then we had to really work hard on shifting perceptions, because downtown Florence was not a place that people felt comfortable coming, that people felt was for them. And we really had to shift that. And we did that through a lot of careful conversations, town halls, some small event planning, things that help drive people down there and give them a reason to stay. 2016 to 2022 they were our crane years, really. So we had several blocks closed at one time with a lot of redevelopment projects happening from private investors. We did a lot of public enhancements. We have a TIF district in downtown Florence, and so that's how we fund a lot of our public improvements. We returned to our statewide network in 2018. We dropped statewide network participation in 2011 because of some leadership changes there, but in 2018, they had righted their ship and we joined back with them. We advanced our small business support programming during that time. We had COVID-19, which really was not great, but we did not lose a single business because our office was working 80-hour weeks trying to keep everybody open and work with them and implement flexible and innovative solutions to keeping everybody, open and running. We did a lot of event and program evolution during that time. We took advantage of COVID to really enhance what we were doing on the back end. That's when Maestro came in. We started with Maestro in 2019, and we really honed in on using that platform for keeping track and succession planning and making sure we had good transitional documents. And then we re-earned accreditation in 2021. And, in 2023, we adopted our 2030 master plan after we completed close to 100% of our original 10-year master plan. We won the Great American Main Street Award. Our program has shifted to focus a lot on housing and corridors. Our goal is 1,000 housing units in our downtown over the next 10 years. Right now on the books, we have close to 200 on that way. We're looking at district expansion. We have a corridor that runs through our downtown that has a lot of really interesting 1950s, 1940s historic buildings that really need to be captured in a district, and it runs through the middle of our district. We're going to expand into that. And we piloted the new accreditation standards. We were the first community to do that in South Carolina in 2023. This is just our program's vision and mission, what that looks like, and our 3 transformation strategies here are EDS and MEDS, defining downtown, and entrepreneurial ecosystem building, which we work a lot on. This is how we kind of fund everything and do these really interesting projects. So investment in downtown Florence is powered highly by locals. We don't have a lot of outside people who are powering this investment. So it's most everything that we have accomplished has been accomplished by people who live, work, and stay here. All of the, we see our role as gap fillers. And so we worked really hard to fill gaps both on the financial side and on the technical assistance side. So we have a sort of a 2-pronged approach there. I'm not sure why the slide's cutting off, but you'll get these after the fact. Public-private partnerships have been a huge part of our program. We've got directed local government intervention through our Main Street program in the TIF district that funds the streetscapes. And then our large projects have had some element of public-private partnership, leading to safer bets for investors and higher confidence from lenders. Part of tackling some of these big white elephant buildings, as we call them, is making sure that your development teams have strong performers and are going to be able to be right side up when they end their project, which has become increasingly harder with construction costs, but not impossible. And the way that you can do that is through some creative partnerships. We have a loan pool program in downtown Florence. We have 2 of them. We have the micro enterprise loan program that started with a sub-grant of CDBG funds from the city, and those were granted to the nonprofit for a micro loan pool, and we've maintained those, and we wholly manage those through the nonprofit side. We have a loan committee that works hard to review those and sort of sell those to the community. And loans are designed to offer entrepreneurs a vehicle to borrow money at a below market rate. But these are not high-risk loan funds. I'm happy to, kind of expand on those if people are interested. Loan term is 5 years. They can borrow up to $25,000. Then our low-interest loan pool is different. That one was originally created by a USDA Rural Development Business Enterprise Grant, or RBEG, program in 2009. And that program is a partnership between our nonprofit and local participating banks. We just added our first new bank to that program in probably 10 years a couple weeks ago. But eligible uses for these funds are property acquisition or rehab of historic district properties. And so this is another vehicle to kind of help with gap filling and aligning and better capitalizing some of these bigger projects. Our Main Street grants that we offer, we have a facade grant that we fund through hospitality tax here in Florence, and that maximum award is $10,000, and it's a one-to-one match. And since 2013, we've done about $450,000 of awarded funds, which have resulted in over $1 million of facade improvements. If you can't tell, we really love data in Florence. Redevelopment grant program that was started in 2015. That is paid for through the municipality's water and sewer utility revenue. We have it written into ordinance that we have about $240,000 annually allocated for across these three programs. So we have historic building maintenance grant, which is about water, sewer, or it's for roof replacement on historic buildings, but they have to be contributing buildings to the district. We have the tenant upfit grant that is up to $30,000 for qualifying interior improvements or rehab on these buildings. And then rent subsidy, we have an incubator program with our local university, and if you graduate from that program and go into a downtown building, then you get this incentive, and we reimburse half of your rent for 2 years, up to a maximum of $30,000. So that's a really great program, and to date we've had over $5 million, just over $5 million in redevelopment grants, and that has leveraged us $130 million in historic building improvements. We do a utility incentive, again, through that same water sewer revenue, and that is to help with, we have really old utilities in the downtown area, and we offer a 50% reduction in water sewer connection fees. That's done through the city side, and we reimburse the city connection to the building up to $25,000 if they have to upgrade that. And then the city also offers a conditional grant agreement process, which that was established in 2011, and that is for projects over $500,000 in nature, and they use a cost-benefit analysis. And that's used typically for mixed-use projects, housing, hotel-type projects, and Class A office. We do not have what's called the Bailey Bill, which is a tax freezing mechanism because we have a TIF district. That's a question that we get a lot. Entrepreneurial ecosystems, we have robust partnerships and support programs. We've worked with our local government to streamline their getting started processes. There was a session at the national conference about how to streamline processes in local governments. That is something that if you can help do that in your Main Street, that is a really beneficial service to help people navigate that. I think there was a survey that came out that 40% of Americans would open a small business, but of those, 60% said that their processes locally were inhibiting them from being able to open the types of businesses they wanted. And it's really about just educating those business owners on what that process is. It can be very intimidating to walk into a government building and not know what to do or where to do it or how to navigate those processes. We do district-wide promotions. That's a Shop Local campaign every year. We do a Restaurant Week campaign. And then we've got a business license credit that we do for businesses locating inside the historic district. That's kind of a soft incentive. And then we have a sign and design grant program that reimburses $500 of architectural fees and signage that's paid for through hospitality tax. It's kind of short on time, and I want to leave a couple minutes for questions, so we're going to go through this a little quickly. But these are our top 10 tips for having a really maximized Main Street program. Focusing on those foundations, don't skip over that. Incremental does not mean slow and stagnant. It means that you are working on small things on a pathway to be successful. Do not ignore board and staff development. I should have underlined board. Your board needs to know what they're doing, and there are tons of resources out there. Provide them opportunities to be engaged and help them navigate the different processes and help them understand. You're not alone in Main Street work, and you need to help them have the tools and resources they need to best help you. And make sure that you're also doing the same for your volunteers. Don't just call people to show up. Provide some level of training for them so that they feel engaged and connected to your program. We are tourism and event adjacent, but these are not our primary roles, so please remember that. I try to put that in wherever I can. Comprehensive strategic planning is something that cannot be ignored. Every community has to have a vision for the best version of themselves. And this strategic planning process can help with that. Plans cannot and should not sit on the shelf. Use those as permission slips to do the work. Your board has already adopted them. Sometimes your city council has already adopted them. That is your permission slip book of projects and things that you should be working on in your downtown. Market and data informed decision making. One of the fundamental aspects of Main Street is that everything that we do should be market and data informed. So make sure that what you're doing is aligned with your market data and what the community is looking for. Remember, we do things with our community and not for our communities. You want to future-proof your organization. Again, this is really critical with the high turnover rate of directors right now. You will not always have the same director or the same board leading your program. So please make succession planning a priority. That doesn't mean saying, here's a notebook full of paper that I'm going to transfer between people. Make sure that your data lives places that is easy to access and that can be stored in a way that makes sense. Maestro is a great solution for that. Dig deep and make sure that your program has continuity after you and your board are gone. Travis Brown from Maestro and I have pitched a session for the Philadelphia conference just about how to do this, how to do this well, and hopefully that session gets accepted and we'll be able to dig deep on that. Engage and participate at all levels. All levels of involvement with Main Street America and your statewide Main Street program have opportunities for engagement. So take advantage of those opportunities and don't work in a silo in your community. Share with and learn from your peers because we're all dealing with similar challenges in our districts, especially at the state level. Don't allow your program to be passively engaged. Show up for Main Street trainings, participate in online community platforms, but active participation is required to be successful. My favorite, data is not a dirty word. Data collection is fundamental for Main Street. The sooner your program embraces collecting good quality data, the better off you're going to be. I love teaching about data. It's one of my favorite things. Get comfortable with asking for help from peer communities and even your municipality. They've got access to lots of things that they can help you with collecting that data. It's how we tell our stories. You saw it in our early part of our presentation here. Demonstrate your value. The data you collect about your program and the work you're doing should be shared comprehensively and often. You have to be able to advocate for the existence and relevance of your program. Get comfortable telling your story. Get your board comfortable telling your story, and advocate for yourself and remind people of how far you've come. New people are coming into your communities every day. We're a much more mobile society. The new people won't remember what the old downtown looked like. Remind them so that they have an understanding and a history. Templates and resources exist for a reason, so don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. That's a time-saving resource. And avoid imposter syndrome. Remember that anybody can be involved and do Main Street work. There's no prescribed set of skills required to lead a program, but you do have to be willing to learn. We do have to know a lot of things or be able to connect people to things that they know a lot about. So be prepared for that. Let go of being the next town X and focus on the authenticity and scale of your community. Cultivate resilience and embrace and build upon your community's strengths. So I'm going to exit out of that and stop sharing my screen if it will let me. So hopefully that worked. Okay.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Hannah. Does anyone have questions? You can either throw them in the chat, you can unmute. I know we're usually quiet, but feel free to ask if there's any questions.
I promise I don't bite.
As you can tell, Hannah is a wealth of knowledge. I know we've been in discussion with several of you, especially after Madison won GAMSA this past year. And Hannah, for your context, that was our first, Indiana community that got GAMSA. And so I think it sparked a lot of conversations for communities realizing like they could do this, and so I think that, really everything that she went through are all the different pieces of what makes a really, a competitive community in that award. One of the questions here says, can you say more about the storytelling framework you've adopted?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had our statewide Main Street program brought in Phil Ike, who is with Storyville Social, and he is from up in Michigan, and so he's pretty close by to you guys. But he is a wonderful storyteller and has a program called Grow Your Own Storytellers, and he will come into your community and help you learn how to take great photographs, learn how to ask the right questions in your community to start building bridges and telling stories and making that impact and connecting your program to the human beings that live and work in it every day. And so we've adopted it on a couple of different fronts. We do storytelling for Black Business Owners Month, we have the most diverse Main Street in the state of South Carolina, which is pretty incredible. We have almost 50% of our businesses are Black-owned businesses, and we got our first Native-owned business this year as well. And so we use that storytelling framework to help tell those stories of these people from their words and their perspective to connect these business owners to the community and share that entrepreneurial spirit resides in everybody, and here's how to get it done, and here's how they did it. And they've shared a lot of really interesting things. We've been able to build a lot of bridges that had been burned by previous administrations in our city government through these storytelling processes. We've learned a lot about what motivates people in our district to come and work here and open businesses. We've learned how to best help them through the stories that they have shared. It's been a really transformative process, but we use it as part of our entrepreneurial ecosystem strategy.
Yeah, and Kelsey, I'm happy to email you offline a little bit more about this, but we actually brought Phil in the spring, or yeah, earlier in the year. He did the Grow Your Own Storytellers. We're hoping to bring him back again next year because, as Hannah was saying, he's amazing. He's a wealth of knowledge as well. And it's just when you get to sit through that workshop, I think it really connects a lot of the pieces of how to do this in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming. Like I think sometimes a lot of marketing and storytelling can feel. So hopefully you'll see more of Phil on our end. We'll try to bring him in more so you guys, more of you can go to that workshop. Anyone else on questions? Getting a lot of comments saying everyone really appreciated the information. Okay. Anyone else? Questions? While if anyone else is thinking, I'll give it a couple minutes, but while you're thinking, just a couple things off of kind of some things that Hannah mentioned. Obviously, like we said earlier, we'll send out a follow-up email to this webinar with some of the Maestro case study that she mentioned, as well as, she mentioned a lot the importance of the having a plan, downtown master plan. And just want to remind you guys that we have our downtown revitalization plans through our CDBG planning grants that are available and open to apply for. You'll have to work obviously with your local municipality, but if that's something that you really feel like your community needs a specific plan for downtown, we have funding for that. So feel free to email me and I can get you connected with your CL to talk a little bit more about that. But just want you to know that that's a resource that you have available to you. I'll also try to send some other resources that she mentioned throughout the presentation. And also definitely wanted to highlight that, something that Hannah said about, obviously we do our best at the state program to give you guys as many resources as we can, but don't forget to go dig in on Main Street America's website, especially if you have a paid membership, using the Knowledge Hub, using those peers, getting on the point, asking questions. I've just been really, really impressed, especially even more recently, of all the different resources and classes and webinars. Again, we can only do so much, and they can even take it to sometimes a deeper or more advanced level. And so definitely get on there and dig around if that's not something maybe you've done yet. Russell asked, there seems to be a lot of various fundings. What are some tips for securing these types of funds?
Yeah,
so maybe like your
the
local funds. Yeah.
Yeah, the short answer is relationships. We have worked very hard with our municipality to help identify funding sources. I think one of the most important things is that none of the taxpayer property tax dollars go into anything Main Street related. That seems to be kind of a pinch point, especially in South Carolina, which is a very conservative state about people getting money for things. We'd use our local water, sewer, utility revenue, and depending on your state law, that can be a great resource if your municipality owns its utilities or provides utility services. Another really great way to do that is the power companies. So if you have power companies that are private power companies versus public utilities, those can be great resources for securing various types of funds. So some creative ones that I've seen is out in Oregon. They worked with the power company to develop grants for Vancouver, Washington, to do lighting grants. And it was because there wasn't a really good way for there to be streetlight implementation. And so they relied on the downtown building owners and business owners to provide a lot of that street lighting to enhance the clean and safe goals that they had within that community. And so they leaned on their power company to write those grants for the building and business owners to apply for to kind of help enhance those various projects that they had. We've also seen some really creative uses of, I mean, hospitality tax is something that we have here in South Carolina that cities can adopt. I don't know if you guys have that in Indiana, but that's another really great thing. A lot of that can be used for Main Street related functions, vibrancy grants, things like that. Working with local foundations can be a really great way to help get some of those funding sources implemented. I think the biggest thing is funding diversity. With a Main Street program, especially on the nonprofit side, you want to make sure that you have a truly diverse funding level. Something that we're exploring now that has really been beneficial for us is service grants. And so what we do is if we get called by our statewide program director to go and help another Main Street community, that Main Street community pays us for our time and services, not me directly, but our program, and that acts as money pools that we can use for projects we have going on locally. And it's not a lot of money, but it's something that can be really beneficial, because that takes time off of our community to go and help other communities do this work in their space. We have a mentorship requirement for our higher levels that, I'm not sure if Jenny's ever talked to you about that, but we have mentorship requirements for accredited and GAMSA winners.
Yeah, we don't currently have a mentorship. I think it kind of happens naturally, through our programs. But yeah, that's a unique idea. I've never really heard that. So that's super cool. Mm-hmm. All right. Any other questions? And obviously, I mean, I don't want to commit you to this, Hannah, but I'm assuming you'd be okay if anyone emailed you and asked you a question or,
Yeah.
So like Hannah was saying, we're a network for a reason. You can always reach out to people even outside of Indiana and really kind of get their thoughts and opinions on things. So I know, thank you, Hannah, for kind of being an available resource. And I'll send the Maestro case study. So for our IMs and NOMs who are on the call, definitely take a look at that. And if you have further questions for Hannah about, kind of wanting to ask, how did they kind of more in depth use Maestro to kind of leverage that? I'm sure she'll be happy to talk to you about that. I know, honestly, I've never used it in the context of being a local program. And so talking to someone else who's actually used it and found kind of a way to make it really work for them and really benefit them, I think could be really helpful to you guys. So, yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions, give it one last chance.
Yeah, and I'm happy to help. I'm always an email away. So if you have questions that come up, please use me as a resource. That's what we're here for. I can also refer you to other really great seasoned directors throughout the country that have been resources for us. If we don't have the answer, we're always available to help troubleshoot and work through things if y'all have specific questions.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will let everyone get back to their day. Thank you for taking your lunch hour to join us. Hannah, thank you again so much. Really appreciate your time and knowledge. And yeah, hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.